first memory I have of an insight into what she was doing was when my brother, who is 2 years older than me, when my brother had to learn Morse code for the Young Boys Brigade then,
Right.
which would be back in the 50s.
Right.
And my brother had to learn Morse code, and there he was. He was lucky that he had a mum who had first hand, and mum started teaching my brother Morse code from car registrations, although there were much fewer cars then.
Yeah.
But when we would go off a journey, it was quite unique to be going through the process of learning from car registrations. Eight children, and the mother and father.
And you all lived in Thurso?
All lived in the town, the most northerly town on the British mainland of Thurso. There was only about 5,000, if there was as many as that, even then. Very small town, kind of off the map. And the Vida was born in the house, in the mill house, as were all the other siblings. And the father was the meal miller, and he had two brothers who also were meal millers. One had the meal mill in John O'Groats, and the other had the meal mill in Halkirk.
I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
He was one of the survivors that landed on Gold Beach in Normandy, and mentioned twice in dispatches. Incredible fellow.
Incredible.
That went on to get the Légion d'honneur from
Incredible.
France.
That's another story, isn't it?
Absolutely,
That's another story.
absolutely.
I had a teacher, Miss Jack, and there you had to do the alphabet properly, and I couldn't do it one day, and as a punishment she made me learn the alphabet. I had to say it correctly next day, and as a punishment I had to learn to say the alphabet backwards. And there's not many people can do it, but it's ZYXWVUTSRQPONNLKJIHGFEDCBA. There's not many people can say it. I had to learn it, and a lot of good has done me right up to this day.
She had an older sister who worked in the post office in Thurso, who suggested to Vida would she like to take up and learn to do shifts as a coast guard. Ideal location right there overlooking the Pentland Firth and all the movements, huge amount of shipping going past there, and she got the taste of what was to come from doing her stint as a coast guard locally. That's when she asked how would she go about making more of this, and where would she need to go. She just wanted all the information to know how to do something further than this, and she got the information back that she could be a wireless operator.
The secret listeners who joined the Y service. Y was short for wireless, basically, and their job was to intercept all these secret coded messages that were emanating from the Nazi war machine during World War II. Well, what they were all doing, every single Y service operative was basically working towards the greater project of the Bletchley Park decoding operation, which had been centralized at this site in the north of Buckinghamshire. And had turned into this kind of industrial scale code breaking effort where they were breaking codes from every single theatre of war on every single continent on Earth. This was a network, a web that spread right the way across the world. Huge numbers of women who'd been recruited to be Y service operatives, to be secret listeners, were sent for a really intensive training course, which took months because you had to learn the Morse alphabet, and you had to learn how to take down Morse at incredible speed through headphones, and do it with 100% accuracy as well, because one of the things they were taught from the start was any mistakes could make the difference between life and death out there in theatres of war. So everything they had to be sort of absolutely focused and sort of absolutely acute at every single stage.
She had to travel all the way down to London. It must have taken many, many hours on several trains, I would imagine. It was a 6-month training once they got through a kind of elimination process. Aurora Wireless Station, she was posted there, fortunately, which was rather good because she was back up north again in Scotland and went on with 12-hour shifts in there.
Throughout, particularly the coastal bases around the northeast of Scotland, Brora was partly picking up diplomatic wireless traffic, which is to do with traffic from embassies, listening in on all sorts of kind of ambassadorial diplomatic kind of talk. But also on top of that, it would have been involved in listening to all sorts of shipping, because of course the North Sea and the Atlantic, an enormous kind of theatre of war in its own respect. So there was the intensity of that, the messages coming from all the shipping all the time, right the way around the clock. The work conditions, they're almost like, in some cases, almost prefabricated kind of huts, quite sort of simple buildings, but quite a lot of them at the same time. And there would be quite a lot of bustle. And you would arrive for your shift, you would sit down at your desk, you had notepad, you had pencil, specials of notepad for Morse notation, and you just put the headphones on and you start listening and you start transcribing, and you keep going. You absolutely keep going all the way through. The difficult thing for the operatives was that they knew that what they were doing was top secret, and they had to sign the Official Secrets Act, basically saying that not one word ever to anyone, family, close relatives, anything. You simply cannot breathe a word of what you're doing. And now I'm very happy to say that, as I say, the Y service operatives are sort of commemorated, I hope, properly, and perhaps they should be commemorated even more.
By coincidence, my father's mother was from the small town of Thurso, so he was often up there. He was always a car owner as a young fellow, which was fairly unusual in the 40s, but he was up in Thurso visiting relatives on his mother's side, and because of the age group and maybe they got to know each other, and Mum got married to him and came down to Glasgow.